Hey there, everybody. This is your host, Steve. How you all doing today? I am joined by Bob from Retro RGB, and we're going to get in here in a second and start talking about some RGB mods and some Mux modding. And I promise Bob's here; he's in spirit. So
Yeah, what's
just
what's up, everybody?
Bob's going to be joining me
Y'all,
audio today. We're going to give him a
yeah,
break.
y'all know what I look like. Y'all know what I look like.
Anyway, I'm just going to let things go here for a second to make sure everything's good on the stream. If somebody let me know if there's any issues whatsoever. I'm not seeing any issues on my end. Hey, Ronnie. Hey, Retro Gamer Player and Buried Bits. Yeah, so today we are working on I've been working on live streaming a lot of things with the Toshiba, and it's an AF flat screen Toshiba. I've restored three of them now, 14-inch ones in a row. And then one of them I'm going to be doing the RGB Mux mod on, and I wanted to kind of go through and do that live here. And also, it would give us a chance to kind of talk with everybody if they had any questions. And also, Bob and I are going to actually, but we could talk a little bit more about this too. We're going to be working together at an upcoming convention in August, and we're going to be bringing one of the TVs that's been RGB Mux mod up there. So a lot of stuff kind of going on today, and thanks for joining us. And so if you could just check out Super Sector Sunthar here with me. But Bob, I know that like we've been talking too, so the plan is kind of just to talk about this quickly. We've got a convention coming up in August in your neck of the woods, Connecticut, Retro World.
Yep.
And we've been talking for a while about doing a RGB mod, and actually at the convention or something. So anyway, I got the one I finally did. I'm feeling better and better and better about this Sunthar kit. And I wanted to, we were talking about, taking this to the convention there and installing it live. And why don't you tell everybody what you've got like for a TV? Just one
So
second.
I have a 20-inch Sony consumer grade TV that has in the front it has just composite and stereo audio inputs. And in the back it has composite S video and stereo audio, but that rear input is combined. So you can't have both plugged in at the same time. You could only have composite or only S video. And I use S video for VHS, Super 8, and just a bunch of other, any console that's S video only. So what I really wanted to do for this thing was obviously recap it just to make sure I don't have to open this thing up ever again. But I wanted to do an RGB mod on the front input and use sync as composite video for the purpose of you set your TV to video 2, the front input, and I have all sync on composite video SCART cables going through a G SCART that doesn't have any of the stripping turned on. So what that means is if you're using a SCART cable, you could output just composite video or RGB with composite video as sync. So by doing it this way, I would be able to have the best of both worlds. You plug in Sega Saturn and you want to play some of those like Nights into Dreams, I'd probably want to play that on composite video. Or if you're just doing an experiment and you want to flip back and forth to see them. So what I want to do is an RGB mod that has a switch. So when we turn it off, essentially I'm just feeding composite video to the front.
All right. So then this mod actually is not. See the difference between this Mux mod and then there's two mods. There's a Switch style and a Mux mod. The Mux basically uses a blanking line through the SCART connector to trigger the OSD and trigger the RGB input. So you send this voltage. If it signals the voltage, then it will go ahead and kick it on, and then you turn the voltage off and it just turns the TV back to normal mode. So it's not like when you have the manual switch, you can feed in the signal and then just flip it on and off and control it manually. Whereas with the Mux, there's no switch, but it's fed by setting a signal in. So let's so that is there are two types, and again, we're going to refer to this. Actually, got another view here too. We're going to refer to this. So we're going to look at the mod that's possible for Bob's TV, and then we're going to look at the Toshiba mod, and we're going to actually work on that Toshiba mod. But the pop out the website here. So this is just like anything I think of the retro stuff. It's nice as we go along and stuff kind of gets easier. Because I remember, gosh, I don't know, 6 years ago, it seemed like RGB modding a CRT was like a thing of mystery more. And now there's a whole lot more documentation. One of the great sites is this Super Sector Sunthar. And one of the things that you go in and you enter, the good thing is there's RGB moddable and not RGB moddable. So there's already a kind of a compiled list of RGB moddable CRTs and ones that are not RGB moddable. And if you go to, like, the thing I thought that was interesting is there's a whole list of ones here. So if you're like, oh, is my TV, I get this question a lot. Does my TV actually have an RGB mod available for it? Well, if you go to this site and it's one of these listed on this list, you could pretty much count it out, at least for right now. Okay, so if anybody, there's all kinds of monitors. Like, for example, I have a Sony KV20 FS120, which is right here on this list. And it's not modifiable because the chassis just doesn't have the components or the access points, or it's all put on one chip. There's all different reasons, but there are lists ones here that are not. And then if you go, he also has it separated where there's a whole list of RGB documented RGB mods, which is a ton of TVs. So if you already found one, or if you want to target a certain TV, there's here. Now, I thought you said, right, yours is a 27 M40 or V40?
Let me check that picture.
Hey, Demo Kirby and Rob Cat, Nathan, Dr. Claw. I'm a fatty cat. Welcome in, everybody. Ronnie. Hey.
It's a KV27 V40. V as in
20.
Victor.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Now that's a BA4 chassis right here. So this should be Bob's TV. And I'm not sure what I did to make that all look whacked out, but here we go. Okay, there we go. This will work for a couple of other ones, but this is the TV that Bob has right here. And if he wants to go in and do it this method, this will tell you how the Mux diagram kind of works. And it's got...
Oh, that's funny. They also have component video mods for it. I would prefer RGB, but I'm just saying, I didn't realize they did it.
Whoops, I guess I went too far back. I guess so. Look at that. I don't know why it does that little thing here. I actually didn't read about a YPBP. Anyway, here, let's go through this part first. Maybe we'll see that at the end because I'm not seeing it right there. So let me throw myself back on the screen for a second. And that way I can show everybody kind of the way. So these are the Mux kits that you get from Sunthar. Now, this is this again, it has to be SCART, or he has another format for smaller CRTs, which is this, which is a mini DIN that you basically connect a SCART cable out of this for... I mean, this could be used for no-cut mods or smaller mods. Same principles. And the other variations are some SCART variations with a board. And this tells you the design specifically on this set. You know, you're interrupting the flow of the OSD into the jungle chip pretty much. That's what you're doing. And you got to remove some filter or your resistors here. And thankfully, this, like, there's calculations that have to be done, but with your TV and with many of them on this list, it's just already been done on what we need for parts. And it's a pretty easy modification once you get the board out. And I'm sure it's going to be the same with the but you're removing 3 resistors, and this is what we're going to do on my set too. And then you're just connecting conductors in there, but you got to remove these resistors. It says to add this inline diode. It's optional but recommended. It'll reduce your interference. I always add this diode. It's not a big deal. You literally lift it. So we're going to do this no matter what, because it'll help with interference no matter how we do the, actually it looks like I do it on all 3 RGB lines there.
Yeah, I was going
help
to
with
say,
interference. It's not
I don't
just
think there would be a single diode. I think you
Right,
would want
yeah.
one on each of the color lines.
Yeah, that's what it is, because sometimes this is on a blanking line, but this is actually a color one. So this is a little bit different. Resistors. There you go. There they are. I mean, this is done nicely, the way they put this guide together, because you can tell the direction. Obviously, they want you to put the diodes in the right way. And after you remove that...
super chat from Jeffrey Aller. Thank you, Jeffrey.
Jeffrey, yeah, thanks. Hey, Steve, we met at Hartford year before last, and it was a pleasure talking over beers. Thanks for making this stuff accessible to everyone. Awesome, Jeffrey. Well, hopefully you can come back to Hartford this year and hang out again, because we're going to do, like I say, I don't know which, we'll experiment with whichever mod. I think everything's going to be the same, except for we're going to actually inject the switch method to do blanking instead of using the board here, so that Bob can do that. Now, see, what you're saying is this TV actually does have a S-video detecting thing. Right? Like it's going to either use S-video or...
Yeah, and if you plug in both at the same time, the screen just goes crazy. So it's double terminating.
Yeah, it looks like there's a way to take care of, or to have that involved with the mod. But
so is the mod showing how to inject it into the rear ports? Because what I wanted to do was inject it to the front port.
That's what... No, well, all it does is it just uses the
sync, right?
Well, but yeah, but the thing is with this mod kit is going to show, like, once you eject the RGB signal into the SCART on a Mux modded CRT, from what I've seen, is it just shows it on every input. Like, it just locks the TV in full, basically, RGB Mux mode, no matter what input you put it on. So you just pretty much tap into any of these S-video, or these points, to get ground and audio and sync put in.
So basically, as long as
that's again mod, only the Mux mod, because it's doing it on it. It's not automatically. It's not switching. But the fact, if it can be Mux modded, it can be switch modded. That's not. But yeah, this is the Mux mod would be different, and that's what I'm actually looking at, is like the plans from the Mux mod. Now, you know that TV also has velocity modulation. Did you know that?
I don't think I know what that is.
So that's that thing that they added to the sides of the screen that's supposed to make it look sharper along the edges, but it usually adds interference and makes it look like crap.
Oh, okay.
And all you have to do, it's an artificial sharpening tool that was a feature added on these sets to make it like look sharper along the edges, but it really whacks up the picture. But you could just reduce it or get rid of it by disconnecting it on the neck board. That's even added in here. So these...
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Is that anything to do? Is that something where after we do the mod, we could kind of take a look, take some pictures, and then pop it off?
Yeah, because it's just a disconnection thing. So all we'd have to do is literally leave it plugged in. Turn it on, take a look at it, and then turn it off, disconnect it, turn it back on.
Cool. I'll bring my fancy camera so we can get footage of that.
Yeah, so we should be able to do that, no problem. Now, here's the interesting thing. You were saying, wow, can you do both of these? A YPPVR mod 2. It said, wow, I didn't even read this, but it looks like you can Bob, you can add component and SCART to that TV.
Really?
Yeah, that's what this person's done on this
So is this
TV.
one of those things where the component video ports were actually on the motherboard and just not ever populated, or is this another way to inject it through this?
So it said this mod, it's kind of doing the same thing. This is more of a switch mod and not obviously a Mux mod, because it's there's nothing. It says it uses a 3P3T switch for blanking between YPBR and RGB. So there's
it's
some kind of
probably doing
switch
the
to
same
blank
thing.
with. Yeah, there's a switch to blanket between the signal being RGB and component. And there's just a
So it's
bunch
not
more
like those
surface capacitors
you know what
to
I'm talking
remove.
about though, right? Those TVs, I think the JVC-D series has some where on the motherboard itself there's just a whole bunch of unpopulated ports. So you need to add the ports and then the basic
Well,
circuitry around
it's
it.
kind of like that. You basically remove those things, and there's obviously a header spot on this circuit board here that I'm looking at right now. This would be a header where you could eject all those. See how all those signals are ejected right there for the color and everything? And that's just like ground. I'm sure that black cable is ground. And so, I mean, technically maybe, and it probably was used on maybe later sets for that, but I've not seen one of these. That's quite interesting that it can go both. Like you can add both inputs to it.
Yeah, that is pretty weird.
But there is, yeah, so on this thing right here, it says that all those connections are right there for, right, look, for whatever component video, really, they are on the board. And it's just like that header's not populated where it would connect to a different input board.
Huh.
And there's that. So I'm just not really sure. Let's see, pictures of the mod. There we go. Here's some more pictures of it. Well, that's pretty much it. So this is going to be, yeah, that's pretty cool. So if anybody wants to come check this out in the booth, we're going to work on this. But I had no idea that, I didn't keep going down and look at this last night, that there was even the idea to component mod it. So it's a little bit throwing me off. But it looks like that is right behind. Yeah, that's right in the input area. There's the jungle chip. So this is.
So does that add another input? So instead of video 1 to video 2 in RF, would it be video 1, video 2, video 3 in RF?
I don't think it's going to add anything as far as an input. It's still going to piggyback off an input somehow, right? Because if you're using it, if you're doing the switchable mod, it might just need a second switch. What I would think is, like, the way you want to do it, if it's possible, then it would be.
I mean, to be honest, I have no desire and no need to do the component video mod.
Yeah.
I was just really curious about all this, just because I've never seen this page before.
The convention's going to be it's the Retro World Expo. Someone was asking, Demo Kirby. It's in Connecticut, and towards the end of August. All right. So yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, that's a pretty early television. That's like a late 90s, usually 98. I feel like 99.
98, yeah.
That's pretty nuts that you could add. Yeah, manufactured 99 in Mexico. So, cool. All right. So anyway, I really wanted to show off Sunthar's website too. This is really an awesome website, like the many other ones we've popped up the last couple of years for CRT stuff. And what I'm gonna
You
do
know,
now, oh, go ahead.
so one thing before we move on to the other mod that you're going to do today, the last time I RGB modded a TV, I had to run all of the lines, red, green, blue, and I think sync as well through a switch.
Yeah.
And that's how I was able to toggle between the OSD and not. Is that still the same case, or is there just like a turn on your blanking signal type of thing to enable it, so it's only one wire?
Well, that's what the Mux is like doing that but you have to some way tell it, right? You have to some way tell it to switch over. And if you only do your video signals like through BNC, you still have to add a switch because you have to add something to do the blanking. But
But the
since
switch isn't going to be running all of the video lines. It would just be running a
right,
signal
it's
line.
literally
Yeah.
just you just run the blanking switch. You don't
So that's
run.
exactly what I was hoping for, because I wanted to run a very small blanking switch,
Yeah.
so that when you do the front ports, you flip that little door down, and right where those ports are, we'll have like a little switch in there.
Yes, you do not have to do like where you have to run every single color and blanking or whatever, all, like, no, I have had to do that before a long time ago too. So I was saying this stuff's gotten
Yeah.
a lot better. So that like you could still do it like that with the switch, so you could put in any kind of input you want. And then or the other mod, which like this one has not got any switch needed with it because it's done through the SCART.
Yeah, that's awesome though, because that means that from every angle except the very back, it still looks and feels like a stock TV. But you flip this little switch, and that composite video signal goes to RGB.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's so yeah, you could do it like that. I mean, still no problem either way. So the one that here's the TVs I've been working on, which you guys have seen on the anybody's been in the live stream the last couple weeks has seen me working on this TV. It's a Toshiba. It's actually a, what do I want to call it? An Orion and Toshiba clothing.
Yeah.
It's not actually a Toshiba, or it's not made by Toshiba. So this is 2004 manufactured. This mod is pretty much one of the more easy ones that I've seen on here. But it's pretty similar. It looks like the vast majority of these Toshibas actually can be RGB modded, even though they already have component video support. So the idea with the ones I'm working on is to do this to one of them and see if it actually makes any difference. I'm going to put it side by side, see if it actually looks better than, I don't know why it really would, but anyway, we'll see if there's any real difference in the picture quality between this one and a stock. So to perform the mod on our AF44, we just really need to remove these components on the board, which is these 3 resistors, which is just our red, green, and blue to ground resistors, and their surface mount. And then these couplers to ground, or these coupling capacitors. They're all in this cluster right here. We'll find them. It said C135 and 131 were not removed. It's not on the list. Good. So don't accidentally remove those, because that can affect the can affect the OSD, so you don't want to do that. All right, so this is showing a little bit more of that. Sometimes you get in here and you have to actually cut traces. It doesn't look like I have to cut any traces on this one.
Oh, good.
So it's just going to be remove the surface capacitors and resistors, and then inject our colors, blanking, and then we'll inject audio, ground, and sync. And the cool thing is if you guys ever do get a kit and you want to get one of these from Sunthar, you can actually go and order like the kit for this television, and it'll come mostly pre-assembled. Where all like I bought one and it had the diode and all the resistors built out in the board that was designed for it like this already. I just had to solder it together. But this is pretty simple because they've already done all the calculations here, and there's no need to install a diode on the main board for the blanking line. You do have to do that on the Sony sometimes. Don't have to do it on this one. There's going to be just a resistor for the audio. There's termination resistors there, or for the ground on each color, and then the color tunement resistors to make the colors look right is 1,000 ohms. Don't actually need the caps here, so it's a pretty simple one. And then there's just one diode, and that's the diode that does the mux, I guess, right? Blanking resistor shorted. So the resistor over there for blanking is shorted. Okay. And so that's where they put the mod kit right there in the back of the TV. And I just don't know how it's going to look much different, but we'll see. So let's pull the old set out here.
Much different from its component inputs, or much different from a different RGB mod?
I would think no, from like the component input on the TV. I don't know how.
It's going to look a little better, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
If you recapped every capacitor on this and you spent all the time to calibrate the ever-living crap out of it, it would probably look identical. However, just RGB modding it and going directly to the neck like that, via the OSD, you're skipping all of those caps, all of that circuitry, all of that other calibration, and at least with the old school ways of doing it. So we did absolutely, Jose and I, a couple of times see an improvement. However, it was never oh wow, you should just forget about using component video and use RGB. It was never like that. It was just a scientific experiment. Two nerds wanted to know the answer. That's all it was. But so if somebody found one of these TVs, unless they're, I would actually tell them, recap it and use the component inputs, unless you're putting it in an environment that's already all RGB. And yeah, all right, so you can get a comp to RGB, which is going to work perfect. Or if you're going to open it up and service it anyway, why not? Or if you're just a nerd and you want all the inputs, that's me.
Yeah, so that's well, and I think there might be. So I think I did have a discussion with somebody about this one time where they told me that some of the TVs could have some kind of picture processing on their component video.
Yes.
And you're bypassing all of that, obviously, by doing RGB. So if there's some kind of negative feature to that picture processing, you're getting rid of that.
Negative feature for video games. A lot of the CRT picture processing actually did help video. It's not like the the enhancements you get from flat panels that make you want to vomit.
Yeah. All right, so
we found a TV at Goodwill the other day for like nothing that we left out. We're using just as an outside TV when the weather's nice, and my wife's like, I'm watching this new TV show, and I know who the director is, and it just looks so terrible. And I started laughing. I was like, no, it's because I never got the remote to turn off all the settings. You've just been spoiled for the past 15 years of not ever having to look at a shit TV. And sure enough, I found a remote and turned off all of the settings, and she was like, holy crap, that's like a totally different show now. Like, yep.
Oh my goodness. It's not like one setting. It's funny. There, some of those TVs you go in and it's like literally 8 different settings that are wacky that are over top of your image.
Yeah, setting it, especially older ones like pre-2020, if you set it to game mode first, that usually disables a lot of it for you. And then you just have to still go in and remove a bunch of other, or just disable a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I still don't have any new TVs that actually play video games on yet. So, All right, let's wheel in the old Toshiba here, and it's right here.
Engius says they've seen videos on YouTube comparing RGB on a PVM to component on a Toshiba, and they looked almost identical, even when zoomed in on the screen with the camera. Well, whoever's working that camera has no idea what they're doing then, because that's two completely different types of screens, shadow mask and aperture grill. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's like I'm sure that you know the complications with shooting a CRT. I mean,
Yeah, it's a nightmare. I hate doing it, and it's very often the longest, the most time-consuming part of making some of these videos.
you have to, yeah, and you got to worry about the ambient lighting and stuff, and you're like, well, sometimes you have to wait till the sun goes down or something.
Yeah,
And you're like,
absolutely.
okay, now I don't have to worry about that. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of a silly thing. I mean, if they're both in good shape, you're going to see an obvious difference between a PVM and a Toshiba because again, like what would be what PVM model? I mean, maybe if it was like a N series that was a 14-inch N series or 20-inch N series that only had S video, right? Compared to a Toshiba, okay, but that's Toshiba AF is a flat screen, so I don't even think those two look the same at all. Like a PVM compared to a
Yeah,
Toshiba flat screen, even the scan
when
lines
you
don't
do
look the same.
CRT comparisons, they have to be the same size tube, and they have to be the same tube style. The Trinitron versus basically everything else. And if you don't do that, it's apples and oranges. It's just impossible to do a true comparison.
Well, right, unless that's what you want to do is like show the difference between them.
Oh, totally fair. Yeah.
But that's like you say, you can't. I mean, and that's why there were so many differences. Anyway, this one has been serviced, and so let me see here. Move it over here to a better view for folks at home.
I think I had one of those.
Probably so. These were pretty common. Still a bunch of them around. Let me move that there. Do that while I tear it apart.
I'm definitely looking for one more consumer CRT, and I want it for all these comparison reasons we were just talking about. I want a 27-inch, so that I could have, a 27-inch curved tube, not Sony. That way, I could compare the same exact size, so that you could see the difference between the tube style. And the
Didn't we have
JVC
one of
D series
those?
is a go-to. Huh?
Didn't you have one of those though? Or no. Wait, that was one of those old Panasonics or something, right? Last year.
The ones I had were 24s,
Oh, okay.
not 27s. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, so
No, it's all good.
go ahead. You say the JVC D series.
The JVC D series are the ones that I owned that they look great. They look like arcade monitors, but are there any others out there that are, good quality, not Trinitron, curved tube with component video inputs, or do I just get any 27-inch and just RGB mod it?
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think that's like the questions, and like I know there's got to be still some good sets. Like there's got to be a good Toshiba that is curved from sometime around that period. And I would think it would be actually made by Toshiba, but I don't know. I haven't.
I've heard there are some absolutely excellent RCA sets,
Yeah,
but I don't think I've ever seen them in person.
I think the coolest RCA set I saw was Vanessa has it. Uh,
Oh yeah?
yeah, it's something really cool. It's like a multi-format, large one, kind of like that.
She's got one of those? I gotta ask her about that, because
Yeah, you
I heard a
should.
rumor. I do not know if this is true. So this is a internet rumor, which could be as true as flat Earth right now. But I heard that some of those RCAs are true multi-format in that you actually get 240p, 480i, and 480p all at their native refresh rates. So it's essentially like, a multi-sync monitor, like an XM29 or something, but it's consumer grade, so you don't get the same sharpness. But I've never seen one. In fact, I've never seen an HD CRT that processed 240p correctly ever.
Yeah, I don't. It's like there's so that it always, to me, it always ends up being somebody just sends me a picture like, have you ever seen this? And I'm like, no, I never even knew that existed.
Yeah,
that's literally what she just like. You see this one? And I was like, no, what? I've never seen that. It's like, it looks awesome. It was pretty big too. So there's probably something out there.
I'm gonna message her right now.
I got an RCA that's 27 inches, but it's older, and I think it's 27-inch model of the ones that you had were 24s that were from a few years ago, right? Like, didn't you have a couple of them or something that?
Dude, I've had so many CRTs pass through, I don't even remember anymore.
Right.
Because a bunch of years ago, my old boss called me and he was like, "Hey, man, I still got that computer you built. It's still running fine, but this thing broke. Can you fix it?" I was still living in Stanford, so I guess it was like 10 years ago. And I showed up, and there was a PC case, and the case was shaped like a monster's face where the eyes light up. I was like, "You got that from me?" And he's like, "Yeah, you don't remember?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "How do you not remember?" I'm like, "I probably have had 1,000 computers go through my house from the time I was a teenager till now. So no, I have no recollection of that." So it's the same with CRTs.
Yeah. All right. Try to get this. This board gets a little stuck somewhere. There we go. In the plastic. This thing. Got a death grip on this input board. Oh, plastic. If it's pull it, it's going to pull the whole TV up. All right. Like not letting go of the board. There's not a screw in it or anything. It's just hilarious. Look at that. Oh, there is one more. It's like, man, I'm doing something wrong. All right. There we go. All righty. So I'm going to get in close here. This board, it's pretty easy to take this one out. I still got you, don't I?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Just waiting for the delay. It's always awkward because I'll hear you be like, "All right, gotcha." And I'm like, "All right." It's 30 seconds before I see what he gotcha.
Here we go. All right. So I'm going to just disconnect all these points on the board. Yep. Here we go.
Did you already discharge it, or are you just not
No,
worried
I
about
have
it?
not discharged it yet. I will be discharging it right here. I'm just gonna.
Toshiba's are the death tubes, right?
Well, see, they were, but so like the funny thing is the first one sparked, and then the last two have not. This one has a coating on it, so it has not sparked. But you don't know whether it's going to or not. But it did in the last couple times. So right after I said that, they obviously have ones that they changed up and do spark. See if we get anything. Nothing there. Ooh, there was a little zap. There was a little zap. Whoop. So sometimes I don't know why it just doesn't, but that one it did that time. Like I set up the both times I've live streamed, it's actually zapped. I actually set up a camera and went like super close to try to get to zap when I was doing the restoration, and it didn't zap.
But I'll never forget when Cruz was over helping me recap that 32-inch D series, the JVC consumer one. And I was like, all right, man. I think it might have been my first time discharging it by myself. And I put the screwdriver in, I popped it just right, and I went to grab the cap, and he's like, no, do it again. And I did it a second time, and it sparked again. And it wasn't as big, but it was big. I definitely, I wouldn't have died, but, I would have absolutely jumped back.
Well, yeah, the thing is it's not gonna, it's gonna be a quick jolt if you did zap yourself with it, but at the same time, you don't want to do that because it's gonna, I'm always like, if somebody shocks themselves, it's gonna scare the crap out of them. They're not gonna want to mess with the TV anymore.
Well, and also, how do you know if you have a heart issue or not, right? There's people with heart palpitations and stuff that
you don't want to find out.
That one zap that would knock me over might kill somebody.
You don't want to find out by experimenting on a CRT, really. Okay, let's look down here at our board. I'm gonna move this camera down closer, and we're gonna find the points that we're looking for on this circuit board. So kit's cleaned up, and let's see. All right. We will looking for IC 101 and 902. So it's going to be on the bottom side. This area. Assuming somewhere up in here. And I'm going to flip the camera angle around. And that way you won't have to look at it upside down, everybody. Okay, I'm going to find this cluster of components. I'm betting it's over in this area right here. So it looks like. Yep, there's if you're looking at the screen simultaneously, there's the two ICs. They're on this diagram right here. So this is 101. It's marked right there. This is 902. Yeah, right there. That says 902. It's hard for me to see. And then, so what we're doing is we're going in the cluster right in between them, right here. That's what it looks like. Now, I don't see these parts as being clearly labeled on the board. So let's see. Let's get closer. So this is the parts right here. So it says to remove these two components. Let me get something better that I could point with. So we're going to remove this and this. And we're going to leave this and that and that and that. And we're going to leave
Demo
this
Kirby
one.
wants to know if either of us have tested Gadget UK's scratch repair using that cell phone screen epoxy
Oh,
method.
no, I haven't.
I haven't either, but I
actually.
really wanted to check it out at some point.
I remember you sending me that and asking me about that. No, I have not. So, I mean, I can't imagine it not working, but I've not had an instance yet. So all we really need to do this is soldering iron and put some fresh solder on there. Then we'll use a solder wick. We need to clean the pads after we lift these parts off. Let's look over here one more time at the diagram. Yeah. Let's see, what else does it say? Yes. There's a better picture. I was hoping there'd be a better picture. So there we go. That's the upside down view. There's those parts removed, right? Yeah. Okay. Yep, there's the one that's left on there. I see it. Okay. Cool. All right. I imagine too that's gonna the kit on that is gonna be something that is gonna be different depending on the at least the lens repair, depending on what kind of tube you're working on too, and the scratch depth.
Yeah.
All right, let's just flood out some stuff here. All right, just one, these two. It's better. Fix the tip of my tweezers here. You been doing any soldering lately, Bob?
Very little, so my skills are worse than they usually are. I got to recap a Dreamcast power supply soon, which should be super easy.
Yeah, that won't be too bad.
I'll probably do it on stream just to have a laugh and everybody make fun of how bad your skills get when you don't use them all the time.
All right. Okay, here. Let's pull this out of the way so I can actually see what I'm actually doing here. So one part gone. So you see that. That first part right there is gone. And then not used to leaving the stream so silent all the time. I usually have the jazz blasting, but I didn't turn it on today.
Yeah, I'm used to just blabbing the entire stream too, so this is kind of weird for both of us.
So many people are just sitting home checking to see.
Hey, what's up, Ariel?
All right, we're gonna go in here.
Target had kept their 27-inch Toshiba because they bought it brand new from Walmart in 2007. I bet you that's a good one. I bet you
Yeah,
it could be an Orion tube one, but
yeah, it probably is. It's like,
uh,
but that doesn't mean they're awful or anything. They're just different. There we go. It came off nice and clean. This last part is not coming off, but there we go. All right. This is two parts gone. Hey, Ariel. Yeah. Yeah. So, I remember buying like the last, it would have been about that same time period. I bought, I think it was also a Toshiba, but it was not a flat screen. It was a bubble screen CRT analog from a Fry's Electronics in 2007. And funny enough, it only lasted like, I want to say a year, and then it just crapped out on me. And
wow.
that was before I knew anything about fixing this stuff. So I just finally I just got rid of it. All right. We got to got those two out right there, which is those two parts are on. The diode stays. So we're going to go. Okay. Then we're going to get these pieces out of the way. These three right here. That one stays. And that one's going. Okay. I mean, the Orion stuff isn't the worst CRT or anything out there. There were a lot worse flat ones, but
What about those Samsungs? I
yeah.
remember there was one model Samsung HD CRT that only had an RF input. And I was just laughing so hard. A friend of mine got one, and I was like, "Why did you get this?" He's like, "It's HD." I'm like, "What the fuck about it is HD? You can't even put like what's over the air at that point?" And there was like two shows being broadcast tops in our area.
The I found a couple of those on the street, like the super flat one and another model one, and I've not gotten in, or the slim fit fat whatever they are. I haven't tested it at all. It has a ton of inputs though. It's not just one. There we go. That's
I
off.
think Mike Matei had one of those. We were talking about it last time I saw him, and I think we looked it up, and they weren't they weren't great or something. I can't remember exactly what.
The yolks look pretty bad on them. I've talked to some people who say that they made them look better, but they had to go through and like apparently I don't think the yolks were seeded that good from the factory. So you apparently it's pretty common to have to go in and redo the whole yolk on it. So I'm like, oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. So I haven't. It's in storage right now. I haven't really gotten into it yet. right, here we go. Come on. Big bucks, no whammies. All right. Good to go there. And then 2 more. Hey, Jake, thank you for the $10 super chat. Says, I fell asleep watching my 14AF44 last night, watching the first season of Pokemon. My SVHS player. I swore on stream that I wouldn't collect VHS tapes, so thanks again for wasting my money. LOL.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that we're coming into the time period where it's I don't know, like you got to kind of get creative on what you want to collect, unless you just want to, spend a lot of money. It's kind of harder to find things that aren't overpriced or something. So like it's always fun to chase something that's old and cheap, kind of.
Yeah, I like Goodwill hunting for stuff like that. I think that's always fun. I pop in like once a week, and I always, I mean, 9 out of 10 times I find something. It's almost always under $10, and when it's not, it's a great deal. Like a flat panel that's in mint condition for $15. I got a storage thing for outside for 21. Like, it's always worth doing. And I found a whole bunch of brand new sealed VHS tapes there and stuff like that. And there's a local place near me that does everything, VHS, vinyl, and I walked in there and he's got a Laserdisc player hooked up to like a 70-inch flat panel. I'm just like, oh, you're one of those. Like, I will bring you a CRT if you like. Why wouldn't you just do that?
Oh man, yeah, I know.
I didn't want to have a conversation with him because if he whipped out one of those composite to HDMI boxes and was like, well, actually, did you know you could use one of these? I might have just slapped him and left. So I was just like, I gotta get out of here. I can't deal with people like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, what's the point to put it up on that unless you're using the retro tank or something?
Yeah, he definitely didn't have one of those. But even so, even if you do have a tank, why is there not one CRT in a shop that only sells vintage stuff?
That's a good question. Hey Ariel, thanks for the $5 super chat, man. Steve, Bob, someone on Bob's Discord has a Sony KV13FS13 or 32FS13 flat screen CRT for free down in my area, worth grabbing to RGB mod. I know no light guns. Well, I don't know. Let's see. Let me pull this last part and we'll see if that's on the list here, Ariel.
And just because it's flat doesn't necessarily mean that it's not compatible with light guns. It's just most likely not.
Okay.
But I've seen some that totally worked. I've seen some that only worked sometimes, and I've had people lose their minds in the comments on both sides. What are you talking about? None do. You're a moron. Or, I have one here that does. You're just one of those idiots that pretends like you know what you're talking about. Like, all right, I've had a lot of these. Some do and some don't.
Some days in the comment sections,
Yep.
All right, cool. That's pretty much all the parts we got. I've got to remove from the surface there, all 6. Yeah. Okay. So let's go check out, see what he's talking about. Let's go back here. See this TV if we can. All right, let's look this up. It said the 32FS13. I'm not familiar with that off the top of my head, so we'll just see if it's on either one of these lists. First off, let's try the RGB moddable list. And then if it's not on there, we'll check the other list. KV32FS13. Let's see if any FSs are on here. FVFS20. Whoa. Here we go. It says FS13 right here. This is a 27-inch. 32FS13. Here we go. Okay. So it looks like you can do this one, Ariel. So same kind of deal. remove the following components: 3 resistors, connect RGB, sync, composite. Yes, 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 yes. So yeah, I mean, you definitely can. Yeah, I would say if you want it, you should do it. Yeah, it's got. I don't know. This one didn't have component video. Does the one you have component? If it has component video, you may just want to keep it as is. But there you go.
Yeah, does yours have component video? Because depending on your setup, you still might want to mod it, but that would be a fun thing to figure out.
Yeah. Let's see here. This is a good TV, actually, because it's got pretty decent deflection yoke. I can tell from that picture that has some potentiometers to adjust your convergence a little bit more. So, I mean, if it's like I say, if it's free and you just want to try it out, heck, why not, right? I mean, and you want to go get it and do it to it, it's definitely doable. It's on the good list. It's not on the naughty list, so that's always nice. All right. So let's see here. We've got our spot cleaned off. Let's see what the next step is on this Toshiba, besides just adding things. That's what I got for. Yep. Now, all right, that's everything. Yep, 6 components. I was going to say it needed to be 6 total. That's how many we got out. Okay. So this is the only part we got to make sure that get the right connection points on here. Green, blue. Let's see. We're looking at the chip the same way, kind of as that picture right there, right? Or are we looking at it upside down?
Good
Upside
question.
down. I could tell. Now we're looking at it the same way if I turn it this way. Try to get that. Yeah, see? Now you can match up that picture a little bit better, guys. And then that's where we're going to inject our lines. Because the crazy thing is this board, it's not really labeled back here. Let me get some alcohol, clean this section off a little bit.
I'd like to be going to get some alcohol right now, but it's a bit early.
Yeah, I hear you. Here we go. All right. There, and rub that down a little bit.
You use tape head cleaners as well?
I'm sorry, what?
It's a tape head cleaner you're using, right?
Is that what this is?
Yeah, it's. I bought the same package of them.
Oh, it's
I think
I think they're listed as like ink or some kind of ink printer cleaners or something. These.
that's so funny. It's probably the same factory making
Oh
the
yeah,
same
they
box,
just
just putting different
they
stamps on them.
yeah, they just fill in Amazon with like different listings, just oversized Q-tips, right? They're like they're good. Get a little brush here.
Oh, Ariel, if it does have component inputs, just get it and try it out.
Yeah, now that was one that may be one of the ones though that I know it was a Sony. I was having a discussion with the guy about how he said it was so much better when you cut out their picture processing on some of theirs component video ones, but
But that's an easy disable too, right?
I don't know, I guess probably.
Well, Ariel,
You
don't
should just go
electrocute
get the
yourself, but
TV
give
if
it a
it's
try.
yeah. Just get on it and take a road trip up to the Game Fest and just RGB mod it there in the booth. Let's... Okay, so I need so crazy here. Blue. Let's just try to tend some spots up here where I'm looking at the guide. It's the blue. Looks to go right here.
I will be back in 1 second. I think I just got a
Okay, go for
delivery.
it. Go for it. Let's see, that looks like that's grounding to this. Let's clean these pads again because I don't know, man. They look like they're all touching each other in a most peculiar way. So let's flow. Maybe we should check and make sure there's no continuity between them. There's all those. Let's do this one too. That looks better, right? Let's clean it again with the... I'm going to remove all that solder again and take a look at this top side. See, those are definitely connected. And I didn't connect it. It's just that's how the board is. So, huh? Okay. Everything else looks good, but that up top looks connected. It probably doesn't matter. It's probably both blue. One's a coupling and one's a resistor. So that's what I'm thinking is going on there. I bet that's what's going on. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. All right. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Expand out this picture. Oops, sorry, guys. So there's the picture, right? And this is the one I'm looking at right in here. Right in there. Where my hand is. Like those two are bridged out. It doesn't seem unusual to me, but I think it's the way it's supposed to be, but it's hard to tell from that picture. All right, let's go back over to this guy. That's right there.
All right, back.
Cool. So I'm gonna clean it again after I've tinned it. So Bob, today I officially have a teenager in my house.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Yeah, I guess, right? Here's the funny thing. I mean, having a teenager, right? we had a party for him over the weekend, and it's like an hour before the party, and it's family party, and him and his friend are there, and he's like, can we go over to his house and hang out for a while? It's like, dude, I do not want your mom to hear after she's been set up for your party and all this stuff how you want to leave like 10 minutes beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, that's a teenager for you.
You're just giving me flashbacks to me being a giant piece of crap. You take everything for granted. You don't understand stuff.
Yeah. And my wife's like, he's depressed. I'm like, he's 13, hormonal. Who the hell knows what happens? I was like, he's probably got morning wood every morning, doesn't know what the hell's going on. And
yep.
It's the girl he likes, doesn't want to talk to him, and he doesn't, who knows? Like, anyway.
Jeez, yeah, good luck.
Mm-hmm.
I've had multiple friends tell me that boys can get rambunctious and turn into little assholes, be a lot of trouble, but teenage girls are way worse.
Yeah, that's
I don't have any experience with that.
Yeah, my daughter, she's only 8. She's super cool and sweet. And I'm laughing with my wife. She's like, and I'm like, he's a teenager, he's hormonal and stuff. We got to remember that. And I'm like, you think that's bad? I was like, he was awesome when he was 8 too. I was like, wait till she turns into a teenager. We're probably going to be saying the same thing.
One of my nieces turned 10 and she's too cool for everything.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to joke around anymore. I'm like, well, you got the wrong uncle for that, because I'm just going to bust your balls relentlessly. You could either laugh with me or you could cry. There's no, just pick one. Well,
I was telling people on here, like my son we're like, what do you want for your birthday? And it's all like Air Jordan shoes and cologne on his list. And I'm just like, golly, how many different flavors of cologne does a 13-year-old need? But he like put it on. We had to have a discussion with him, telling me he only needed to use 1 spray a day, because he was going in like using 4 or 5 sprays. I'm like, dude, you're about to kill everybody in the house. Walking around with a migraine from the whole house smelled like Ralph Lauren products.
We were at like a distant family get together thing. I was probably 14. Remember Cool Water Cologne?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So one of the kids walked in that was our age, that he must have showered in it. It was so gross. And one of my cousins bitch slapped him. Was like, what are you doing? And the kid, he started we were all about the same age, so we weren't picking on like little kids or anything. And the kid starts tearing up, and he's like, why did you do that for? He's like, you smell so bad. He's like, but it's cool water. Oh God.
That's what I try to tell him. I'm like, dude, it's not the same. Like, you don't, you gotta get a little, you can't just go out.
I remember when the company I worked for, they had decided to move to Texas. So they hired they did a really good job trying to make it easy for everybody to get another job and everything. And they hired consultants to come in and teach people how to do better in interviews. And one of the things that they talked about was, whatever you do not overdo it with the perfume or the cologne, because people who are interviewing you will try to be polite, but all they're going to want to do is get you out of there as fast as possible. And fast forward 10 years later, I'm in my apartment in Stamford. I was on the top floor, and I get in and I go down a couple floors, and some lady walks in her early 50s. The door closes behind her, and I pulled my shirt up over my nose and went, oh my God, what did you do with your perfume? Did you just dump it on you? And her eyes bulged out of her head, and she's starts frantically hitting all the buttons so that the door would open on the next floor, and she runs out. And I told a couple of my friends that story, and some of my friends were like, wow, you're just an asshole. You're just a mean person. And the other half of my friends were like, you probably saved that lady's job interview right now. That's probably what happened. She was on the job interview. She was getting nervous, sprayed too much perfume on. But yeah, you were an asshole, but you could have saved her job for her. So whatever.
And you go in, and that's right, man. They'll want to get rid of you, and then all they'll do is the hiring people will be like, "Who did you like? Wasn't that the perfume guy? No, we can't
Yeah.
hire the perfume guy. Forget about it. He's not even on the callback list.
Yep.
It doesn't matter how good you are. That's what we're like, oh, you mean, oh, what about that person? They smelled this. You know, that's all they talk about. So
I can't tell you how many times in my life I've just been that guy. And a lot of times people have come back and just said, hey, I just want to let you know you made me feel really bad about myself. I didn't appreciate that. And I apologized. But far more times I've had people come up to me and be like, hey, I just want to let you know you're the only person who told me that. None of my friends told me, people I see every day. I didn't realize I was doing that. I was a little annoyed when you said it, but I realized you were the only one with the balls to actually just tell me I was doing it. So thank you. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to keep being me then.
Yep.
I had, I shouldn't tell this story if I want to tell it anyway. I had one of my in-laws, they're pushing 80. And I was like, hey, let me ask you two a question. Your sisters, right? How come you talk like you were born in the 1950s and you talk like you were born in the 1850s? She got so mad, so mad. I took it so personally. And then when I eventually confronted her, like, hey, I heard you're really pissed at me. I was just trying to make light of things. I just figured we were bonding because we're both weird. And her explanation as to why she got so upset was so fucking bizarre that I wish I was meaner. It was like, you reminded me of when one of my ex-husbands was rude to me one time. And I'm just like, so this is a you issue then. This is not a me issue at all.
You triggered this emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
You are 80 years old. Don't you think it's time to grow up? Wasn't that when you were like younger than me that this happened that I triggered? I think the problem's you.
Yeah. Oh gosh, man. I know, right? It's like,
Oh, I got so much shit for that for like a year.
you know, the older relatives, it's funny how you get older and like the older relatives, it's like, how long are we going to deal with like their bullshit till somebody calls them out on something? And I
Well,
feel
invite
like
me to
that's
your
like,
party.
yeah, I feel like I'm constantly like, you know, da, 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 da. And they're like, okay, Steve's not invited anymore. So yeah, it's eventually just like, shut up. All right. Already. All right.
Somebody said something once and it really stuck with me and I forgot what they said, but the vibe was basically like you have to treat every old person with respect. I was just like, no, just because someone's old doesn't mean they weren't a piece of shit their entire life. I had a couple of uncles that were like that, one in particular, and it's just like, no, you don't be rude to somebody because they're old. You give everybody the benefit of the doubt the first time you meet them. But if somebody's a giant piece of crap, I don't really care how old they are. As long as they're an adult. If it's a little kid's a piece of crap, slap the parent in the face. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Dude, I mean, yeah. I've always been like, you know, I always try to treat people the way I'd like to be treated in respect return, you know. So initially try to give people always the benefit of the doubt, but you know, there's just
Yeah,
the older people could be different because they've been a lot of times nobody, like you say, nobody's been called them out on their life on it, or the people that have has caused such a big hassle that nobody else does, and they go on for decades acting like that, and then someone comes along and it's like such a blow up because they haven't been really called out ever.
yeah.
Develops in light narcissism.
The piece of crap uncle I was referring to. I remember I worked at a gas station when I was in high school because it was easy and I liked cars. And this guy comes in, this chatty old guy, just wouldn't stop talking. I bumped his gas for him. He already paid. And there was nobody there. So I was like, well, let me just make small talk and kill another couple of minutes. And he mentioned this, he golfs at this place. And I was like, oh, I had some family that golfs there. He said, who? And I named my grandfather's name, and he didn't recognize. And I named somebody else's name. And I said the name of the piece of crap uncle. And he got his face dropped. He got in his car and he left. This chatty old guy that would not stop talking, would not leave me alone. As soon as I said the name of this guy, he just got in his car and drove away.
Mm-mm-mm.
So yeah,
yeah.
People definitely are just awful.
Yeah. All right.
By the way, Ronnie, thanks very much for the kind words. I try my best. I get a lot wrong, but I try to correct it all. So thank you.
Let's see if we can get this actually attached down here. Okay. Blue, red is down at the bottom. Red's right here. Sometimes I get like super mad at relatives and then I'll or something for some reason and it's justifiable. And then I'll drink and then I'll talk shit about them for like all night. And then it's like I have to laugh because then the next day I wake up and it just makes it kind of, I know it's weird, but it makes me feel bad because I'm like I'm not like an asshole normally unless people really deserve it. And even just talking shit about people that deserve it sometimes makes me feel sick. It's like what I should just shut up
Yeah,
sometimes, you know? I mean, like I
I
don't
know
know.
exactly what you mean.
Almost
You
it's
get on a
almost like a
roll.
little bit more of a high hangover, and you're like, yeah, they really did deserve to be talked like that about, but at the same time, it makes me feel like I'm a bad person because I talked so much shit about them and was laughing, whatever.
I had a friend call a couple of us out on that one time, and I never felt like a bigger piece of crap in my life. She just we were a friend of mine was also an old coworker, and we were just bitching about the people we worked for because they really were just horrible people. And the other friend comes to the room and she's like, "Are you two just sitting here talking shit about people? That's gross." And I'm like, "Oh, that is gross. That is gross. Ugh, they deserve it, but now
Yeah,
I'm like them." So
yeah. Because you're right. It doesn't like sometimes you're like, oh, it doesn't make me look good sometimes.
no, it most of the time makes you look bad, but
But sometimes you
whatever.
got to do it.
Sometimes you got to. I just try to be very clear, like when I'm talking about people's actions versus a person, right? Like, oh, this person did a shitty thing. If I want to bitch about it, fine. I guess I have a right to, but it doesn't make them a bad person. Whereas on rare occasion, you do get the horrible human.
Yeah. Well, man, these. Gonna hit a little bit of fresh solder on here. Getting this red in the wrong spot here. I don't know why I'm going to the second row now here, and I should be going all the way down to the bottom for the red. Right there. I put it at the wrong spot the last time. All right, red. Let's see if we can get it down there. Look at this. All right, let's get this red attached to the.
Do you ever find interference where you route the wires for RGB modding CRTs?
Well, I try to limit the things to the ones that have good guides written on them, specifically that have been done a few times for that reason. Um,
Makes sense.
I've had because like I have had things come up where you're like I don't really know what's going on here, and one of them's probably the one that you had taken from me for a while, that red one, because that was like the first RGB mod I ever did, and it was one of the ones where I had to do that switch, like you said, where you route everything through it. And then like later on, somebody's like, oh, well, if you change the resistor value here, it'll make the picture better. And actually, funny enough, I think the 8-bit guy just did an episode about it, like that Samsung TV, and was able to get a better picture with it. Which I couldn't believe. Somebody, like, I randomly will get confused. I can't believe this with the 8-bit guy. Like, how does anybody confuse me with him? Surprisingly, like on Facebook, I'll get a message, hey, David, or whatever his name is.
Trying
like,
so hard to just not say anything right now. Because
wait a second. Where?
How did he start the video? Did he put it in a dishwasher to clean it?
Yeah, he's like, all right, first we're going to wash this. No, it's a funny one because it's like, this is what you've seen before. This is the 3rd episode of me fixing it. But I just was, the one that really got me was the one Chris showed me, the Displaced Gamer, that he had gotten the arcade machine like to put together, and this arcade monitor worked on. And then when he was trying to reinstall it, he cracked the neck on the tube, just putting the tube back in the arcade machine.
I mean, that's something that could happen to anybody.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a horrible way for the video to end. But I was like, yeah, that kind of sucks.
What was the attitude? Did he? Because if that were me, you all know me. The video would then be retitled "Bob Necks a CRT while working on an arcade board," and the whole thing would have turned into making fun of myself while I teach you how to not make the same mistake I made. But that guy, was the video like?
I can't remember. It was like 2 or 3 years ago now.
Blaming somebody else for it.
Oh, I can't get this stupid conductor to. Right there's where I need to go with the green. Stay put, baby. Just pull it back a little more. The problem is some side membrane on this cabling.
Hey, Chris is in the chat. That's funny. Usually it's when he'll pop up during one of those live streams when I do the NES to SNES conversion tests. It's always fun to see him in here. What's up, Chris?
That is funny. He'll be at told me he was going to Retro World this year, so that's good.
Oh, good. It's always a good time when he shows up.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got to get Roger to show up, and we'll get him all shit-faced. It could be like Fear and Loathing. As your attorney, I recommend that you punch this guy right in the face.
Yeah, we'll have to, like, I don't know, spike his drink with some mescaline or something. Some Quaaludes.
Or we just all eat mushrooms and walk around.
Yeah.
We'll get banned from Retro World. We'll get banned for licking the TV screens.
Oh, so this is something wild, but that huge TV, and I'm gonna all right, we're done with that section. I'm gonna push all that down. That's the 4 conductors that need to go over there. I think that's right. Looks right. But here, zoom this out a little bit more. Can't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, the
mushrooms and licking CRTs.
The large CRT is it's crazy because you turn it on and it has this weird, like, therapeutic almost electrode feeling to it, where you get so close. So you get up and you turn on this 36-inch TV, And if you get up like close to the screen, you know, you feel the static energy on it, right? On the tube, it's so big, it's got so much energy in it that you can feel it for like 3 or 4 inches off the screen tube. So if you go and like hug this CRT, it is insane. Like you feel the buzz from the tube like shooting through your chest about an inch. And I'm like, is this good for you? Or is this like getting an extreme dose of radiation? Like you're irradiating your chest. But I was like, is this like good therapy or is this like bad? You know, like you'll sit there and like your hair will just stick out like that far, just standing next to the tube. So you can come see that phenomenon in the
It's
booth.
very funny to see how little people know about CRTs these days, because I was talking about how the human body is affected by magnetic fields. So it is possible that when you get close to a big CRT like that you might feel different. And I've had responses like, so you're some kind of conspiracy theorist? What's the conspiracy?
What's the
Magnetic fields in
conspiracy?
the human body? It's like really woo-woo tinfoil hat. I'm like, what are you talking about? That's actual science. And I've had other people be like, well, you know, that's dangerous radiation. Radiation. So are entire generations of children walking around with glowing heads from sitting close to the TV? No, there's no
No, it's
radiation
never
coming off
happened.
of a TV. Are you kidding?
If there would have, I mean, the things were around for so long. If there would have been radiation coming off of it, everybody would have known about it. It would have been a big study. Somebody would have gotten bad cancer. A bunch of people would have.
Yeah.
Never happened. It's like these things were around for 50 years big. Okay. So let's I know you're running out of time today.
No, I got
Okay.
time.
Okay.
Like an hour-ish.
Well, I don't let's see what else we've got to do here on the I'm gonna run these, but that's just the composite grounds and stuff. So I have those conductors run, but I don't have the parts to test it till they come in the mail, the resistors. Unfortunately, my board is barren. So you'll have to wait for the video to see the rest of the results on this one, everybody. But yeah, if you want to hang out, and if anybody has any questions about RGB mods or anything, we can hang out for a minute here, talk some more
Yeah,
about
so
it.
when you do stuff like this, do you decide to then recap the chassis since it's already out and ready, or do you just add the RGB mod and kind of go from there?
No, like this one's been, and the other one that I did has been, nowadays I would just offer them independently. So, like I wouldn't recommend, again, doing this with a TV unless if you were sending it to me to do, you might as well have the cap kit done. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like, why, what if you do all that and then you use it and you really love a TV and then the deflection caps or power caps start going out?
That's my opinion on it.
So I
Hey,
think that
60
there's,
FPS.
yeah,
Thank you for the super chat. That is awesome.
yeah, thank you
Much
for 60
appreciated.
FPS for $10 super chat. Thank you for sharing your expertise. I didn't watch all your CRT shop intro videos, but was the reason more so because you wanted to reclaim house space or have more personal professional separation? Oh, you mean for this? Well, I don't know. Some people are still surprised to find this. This is what I've done full time now for about the last 3 years, is this business. And so this is literally just a progression of all that, where now I have its own building. So it's like it went from being in my garage when I started it to a basement, and now I have my own building in the backyard in my new place. So it's a little more space, a little bit better. Um, I will tell you that when I was in the other places, it was more difficult because I had to worry about, people running around the house, noises, something happening. Where here it's all on its own. There's really nothing near me. It's an isolated building, so it's nice. But yeah, this is that's what that's all about. It's just like I've been able to grow it to the point where this is kind of the third step, and I don't know that I'm going to need more than this, but I've got a lot of work still to do here on this new shop. All right. Let's see here. Jake's got some stuff. Let's see if anybody else has any questions.
Sylvain said they remembered that Samsung had a line of CRTs that were certified for low radiation for pregnancy negative effects. That's pretty funny. I bet you that was all marketing BS.
That's gotta be. So there's a funny that's why there still has been that huge CRT, whatever it is, class action lawsuit, because so many companies were coming up with bogus stuff like that to try to compete kind of with Sony. They were there were so many things they said that they were claiming that really weren't true.
Yeah.
But and that's what it takes, I guess, 20 years after this tech is dead for them to finally come out about it.
I think throughout history we found that's always the case though. When something's mainstream, there's always rumors and BS, and then after everything passes, then you find out the real truth.
Yeah, you got yeah, there's always well, for example, it's like the PVMs that are the medical grade things. They have some of them would be fitted with some kind of wacky thing that's supposed to make it more safe in an oxygen rich environment or something. There's not a spark chance, or it's better grounded, but I don't know. I mean, I guess that makes a difference, but I wonder too if they just sent in another PVM that didn't have all that and it caused a fire one time, or if it was actually making
Jeez.
a difference. Hey, all right, Steve, is it okay to make some badass game slash CRT art for your walls? Of course. Actually, I need to talk to you, Ariel. I'm sorry. This move has been so ridiculous. It's anytime you move, takes like
Yeah, I
too
feel you there.
long. Well, it's so much longer to get everything unpacked than you
I moved
think.
so many times the past couple of years. Just especially if you count office moves for me and stuff like that. It's just I want to stay put for at least a little while longer.
Oh, I know. So, yeah, this one, just to give you guys an idea, pretty much all the CRT servicing I do like this is through Patreon. And this one was sent in, the whole TV was sent in by the person who owns this TV. I do have people that send in just their boards because they can save. Obviously, shipping it is much easier. But the problem with just sending in a board is obviously I can't test it back with the rest of your boards and things and your tube after it gets worked on. Uh, but even in that case, I've had some instances where there was one guy who was working on his 20L2 PVM and he somehow fried the main horizontal output transistor. And so the TV was dead. And he just sent me that main chassis and neck board. And I was able to find that IC was dead by just, testing for shorts to ground. And I couldn't find any other shorts on the board. And I did the cap kit and sent it back, and he said it worked perfectly. So I think I don't know, that might have been Jake. Am I right, Jake? Are you still in there? Was that you that had the L2 problem? Or was that another person? I can't remember. But anyway, that happens sometimes. Um, I will tell you that if you're concerned, like I think that there's going to become more. I mean, hopefully as time goes on, more of these guides get put together and more ways to RGB mod these sets comes out, and it gets easier. So Wink721 is an old Sony that you've been working on. Video input shows up on all inputs. The other inputs have no display. I'd see there's something going on there where the video inputs are going probably into the somewhere communication between the chips. Uh, you might want to check to see that your like main input isn't like shorting to all the other inputs or something. So there might be that'll be something that you'd have to do some deep troubleshooting. Oh, okay. No, it wasn't you, it was somebody else.
John wants to know if you've ever thought on doing a video on the different BVM input cards. You've done individual videos on that, but do you have any specifically for recapping and walking through?
Actually, no. I don't think I have gone through and actually worked on a specific card or anything. That would be a pretty good idea. And maybe just about going through kind of the differences on some cards. So,
Yeah,
the guy now, guys, this is something that, and I'm glad, I haven't even mentioned it today. I did start a second channel for this kind of reason, to hopefully be able to publish more stuff. And actually, I meant to say this at the beginning, but it was really thanks to Bob's inspiration that I started putting some other things over here, like this Q&A stuff. I kind of copied you on that, but I said I did.
no,
So
good, whatever works.
so, but that's like it, when that's what I want to do is I want to have this one, this channel, this secondary channel here, to be able to do stuff more like that, like publishing stuff that isn't really good content for mainstream stuff. Not going to get a lot of views, so I'm not worried about views over on this other channel really. And that's unfortunately what you got to do nowadays, is be mindful kind of both your main channel, and then like this is just a backup channel plus a place to go and publish something like that. So yeah, if you guys want, go check out that other channel. I was planning to go on to about 2 o'clock today with Bob, so I think we're hitting about that point here. If there's, I want to say, if I know most of you know Bob, but definitely please go, if you're not already. Like I did the supporter Q&A literally as a copy of what Bob had started years ago, because I just thought it was such a cool thing that that you started doing so long ago, probably even before I started making videos. And
Yeah, I love interacting with people, so that was just a no brainer for me. That was a lot of fun.
well, plus there's a lot of times where it gets hard to explain things fully in just a DM. And that was always such a good way to kind of get a little bit more out. And then if you don't want to watch it, great, don't watch it. Just skip past it if it's not your question. But it's really helpful, I know, to people. But so my thing is if you guys aren't already, please make sure you're over there and support Bob for sure. I mean, I appreciate all the support
Oh,
you guys
thanks,
do for
Steve.
me. But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Bob. I mean, I wouldn't have started any of this stuff, honestly. If it wouldn't have been for me finding you a decade ago or more.
Well, we're glad you're here. That's for sure.
Well, thanks. And so that's it. If you guys want to see more about this mod, I will have a video, and I'll probably write something. I'm sure I'll write something with it for the website, Retro RGB on it. And but that's it. And appreciate your time today. And thanks again,
Yeah,
Bob.
thanks for having me on. This was a lot of fun. And, as always, if anything I said went too far or if I offended anybody, just feel free to email me at complaints@voltar.com and just let me know whatever
Right.
you feel.
Send them all over there. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks again. All right. You have a great day. We'll see you next time.
See it.
Oh, we got a super chat here. I'm going to read it. I'm sure Bob, I'm going to drop Bob and we'll read this. Yeah. We'll let Bob go. Thanks, Bob. I'll read you just sent the super chat. I haven't closed it off. All right. Silva says, would love to see more content on basic consumer CRTs. Ones us normalies actually gets our hands on. Cheers, guys. Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of what I've been trying to do now. We've got, the content. Actually, I've got another video I've been filming that's going to come out before this one. It's on another consumer grade CRT. It's the Sony KV20FS120. I mentioned it earlier, but that one's going to have a video on it. This one's going to have a video on it. So that's a couple one. Keep an eye out for these Toshibas. I mean, they're cool TVs. They are versatile. And I think you'll find that they're more easily attainable and less expensive than a PVM2, of course. But anyway, guys, have a great one. Thank you again, everybody who super chatted and hung out